course, what can Arlington do? What are we doing? What we could do more of to stem the loss and help people that may be losing their jobs based on what's going on across the river. So, James, you're up first.
I want to thank you for asking me that question. Hold that. I want to thank you for asking me that question. I have campaign signs out all over Arlington that say "Fight to protect our federal workers." Our federal workers are the backbone of our local economy. We have to do whatever we can to help them. I think the first thing that the county board should do is to find some lawyers to file lawsuits on behalf of the federal workers. We have to see whether we can stop what's happening. The second thing that I would recommend that we do is if we have open positions, we need to hire these people. And if we can't hire them directly, I think that we should provide them with job counseling, job fairs, do whatever we can to keep our federal workers employed. As I go around Arlington, I see signs in every neighborhood that I go to, in the lawns, saying we support our federal workers. We have to support these people. They're the backbone of our economy. I will do whatever I can to help them.
As if funding to education is cut on the federal level, will you commit publicly to making up the deficit? And I'm going to expand that question to be other federal funds, meaning community development, block grants, other funds that come to our county directly or indirectly, food, etc. What is your position on using county funds and taxpayer funds to replace those lost funds?
I would commit to having the county go ahead and pick up where the federal government leaves off. Once again, I have campaign signs out all over Arlington saying that there's nothing more important than educating our children. And I sincerely believe that if the federal government is not going to provide the funds, the county has to pick it up. There is nothing more important than educating our children.
I'm a small business owner and a homeowner. Honestly, I feel like every time I turn around, Arlington has its hand out for more money. What are you going to do to reduce my business and property taxes? I'm tired of seeing them increase year after year after year. We start with you on that one, James.
One of the major issues, I think, in this campaign is the fact that the county has a 24% commercial vacancy rate. 1 out of every 4 businesses in Arlington is vacant. And I think that what we need to do is bring in more business. The simple equation is that the more business revenue, tax revenue we bring in, the less we have to rely on real estate revenue. And I think that what I would do is I would offer new businesses in Arlington, I would offer them an introductory rate, either eliminate business taxes for a couple of years or greatly lower them, to get business in the door, to get them to commit to Arlington long term. If we can bring in more business and we can generate more revenue, then we can perhaps lower the taxes for businesses, and we could possibly also lower real estate taxes for everybody in this room. The county, in my opinion, has failed. If you have a 25% commercial vacancy rate, that's 1 out of every 4 businesses. I live in South Arlington, near Columbia Pike. I see businesses leaving left and right. I think that we've got to do more to bring in business, because business is what's going to bring in the revenue. And once we have revenue, we can start looking at cutting taxes. With respect to zoning, I think this election offers a rather stark choice between 2 competing philosophies. You have the current county board, who in my opinion favor overdevelopment and side with real estate developers and stand for more density. Whereas my position, I stand for less development in order to preserve the quality of life that we have here in Arlington. The primary example of this, of course, is the missing middle. When this zoning change was first announced, the county board claimed that if they allowed real estate developers to put 6-unit condo buildings in single-family neighborhoods, real estate prices would somehow magically come down, and people would be able to buy real estate in single-family neighborhoods at cheaper prices. This, of course, was simply not true. The prices for the new condominiums that I'm seeing are all over $1 million. The missing middle is not going to produce affordable housing. Now, when it became apparent that the missing middle was not going to create affordable housing, what did the current county board do? Did he say, hey, we made a mistake? No, instead they doubled down by rebranding the missing middle as expanded housing options, with the idea being now that the people in single-family neighborhoods but have housing options they didn't already have, like condos and duplexes. And the problem with this is that there are already thousands and thousands of those housing choices in Arlington. All the Boston core is filled with condominiums. The really alarming part about the whole thing was that they passed the missing middle over the vigorous opposition of the people who actually live in the neighborhoods who don't want the single-family neighborhood. The missing middle is going to make increased traffic. It's going to make parking impossible. If you put a 6-unit condo building in a single-family neighborhood, that's 12 more cars you've got to park. Where are you going to put them? It's going to overwhelm the sewer system. It's going to overwhelm the stormwater drainage system. It's going to take out the tree canopy, and it's going to irrevocably change the character of our neighborhoods. The county board is not listening. I talk to voters every day. They say, Mr. DeVita, we don't want this. The county board is not listening to us. We need to listen to people.
Only Arlington, there's a lot of places. That was COVID-induced, that's being exacerbated by some of what's going on again across the river right now. Conversion of existing office space to residential is one of the ways to deal with that. Have we done enough? What have we done? Have we done enough? What more can we do? Do you support that? So James, you go first.
Absolutely. In fact, in all my campaign literature, I offer alternatives to the missing middle. And one of the primary ones is converting vacant office space to living space. There are proposals out there called co-living. The idea being that you would take an existing office space, it's got centralized bathrooms and kitchens, and then you would ring living spaces around it. And I think for young people, especially, this could be an attractive option. People who can't really afford Arlington. And if you look at some of the prices of the missing middle, I mean, even the county's rosiest projection was it would cost like $600,000, and most people coming out of college simply can't afford that. This co-living option, I think, would be a good one. It's a way that we could convert the residential office space. I think that we need to do whatever we can to talk to real estate developers to get them involved in doing this. And I don't see why they wouldn't want to. Those spaces are just sitting there month after month after month, costing the developers money. I think that if they realize that there is a way to do this, that they would do it. One other option I saw was to have people come in and show them the space, and then let them talk to the developers and be able to create their own spaces. If they could come in, they could essentially design a unit. And I think that it's a solution. I think it's one of the best solutions, because essentially what you're doing is you're taking space that's simply being wasted and you're putting it to good use. I think it's a fantastic option, and I think that it's a much better option than missing middle. Thank you.
How do you explain the perfect balance between time and money for developer, community review, and are there ways to improve or streamline the current permitting process for developments?
Could you imagine being a business owner and being told that it's going to take a full year to get a permit so you can do business? I think that's why we have a 25% commercial vacancy rate. The real problem is once again, is twofold. If you don't bring enough business income in, then you got to rely on real estate income and for taxes. And so the real problem is that people's, real estate taxes are going to continue to go up. And I don't think the people in Arlington particularly like that. In fact, I talk to them 4 hours a day and I'm hearing it. That the taxes are too high. What we need to do, we need an economic renaissance in Arlington. We need to bring in new business. Not because I love business, but because it makes everything else go. If you have a restaurant you can go to, if you have a store that you can go to, if you have a place that you can shop, all of that drives everything else. We have to bring in new business. If it were up to me, I would set up a system where you can get your permit through in a day. And I would actually assign people working for the county to help you get it through in a day. If you need to get this, they'll show you how to do it. If you need to get that, they'll show you how to do it. The long and the short of it is, if it takes a full year to get a permit, why even do business in Arlington?
Okay, next I'm going to switch the discussion a little bit and read one of the questions that came in on immigration. Many families and immigrants feel unsafe in Arlington due to ICE and federal immigration overreach. The question is, we all know this, from the news, from our communities, just hearing what we hear. What are your thoughts, each of you, regarding Arlington County's trussing policy? And do you support removal of Section 7? James, I'll start with you.
I defend people in deportation proceedings. And I've seen firsthand why these people are coming to the United States. In a lot of instances, their basic choice is either to leave or to starve. If not that, there's a situation in most Central American countries where gangs are coming up to the families and saying, give us your sons or else. These people are here not because they simply want to earn another 50 cents. They're here because their lives are being threatened. And I think that what Trump is doing is absolutely appalling. This man is un-American. It's un-American not to follow the rule of law. It's un-American to simply take people off the streets. That's what they do in dictatorships. They sweep people up. I would go do whatever I possibly can to support every immigrant I possibly can. We have to fight Trump everywhere we possibly can, and we have to do whatever we can to protect the immigrants.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start switcheroo again, a little different topic. One of the questions from the audience was about home rule for Arlington, but I'm going to revise it. You can speak to home rule if you'd like, but I'm going to ask you about reform of the Arlington County Board structure. There's been legislation introduced in the legislature. There's been some discussion in our, among the board members. So number one, what changes, if any, do you personally support? And secondly, what process do you envision to look into that or discuss that with the community?
I'm not sure whether everybody in this room knows, but Patrick Hope, who's our delegate here, actually has a plan to expand the county board. And the basic idea is that you would have 4 positions that are designated for certain specific geographic locations in Arlington, and then 3 at-large positions. And I have campaign signs up saying I support Mr. Hope's plan. I think it makes a lot of sense. There are differences between North Arlington, say, and Crystal City, or between South Arlington and other parts of Arlington. I think that those people have different needs, and I think it makes sense to have somebody who's representing that particular area. So I wholeheartedly support Mr. Hope, and I wholeheartedly support his plan. The other thing, in terms of home rule, I've always thought it particularly obnoxious that we have to listen to Richmond. I don't know why we can't have home rule here. Why can't the people who live here decide what we want to do? That bothers me. The whole thing bothers me. We should be able to determine our own fate. I'm driving an electric vehicle right now. I think electric vehicles are the way of the future. I think the 2 big problems with owning an electric vehicle are range, and number 1, just finding a place where you can charge them. And I think it's sort of a chicken and egg thing. I think if we have more charging stations, I think that we'll have more electric vehicles. I think they're good for the environment, and that's something, it's a very practical thing that we can do. Certainly we can put them in county government buildings, and we can encourage businesses to have electric vehicle charging stations in apartment buildings. Anywhere where there's a sizable building can accommodate an electric vehicle charging station. And the second thing I'd like to do is expand bike lanes. My model is Copenhagen. When I was in Copenhagen, if you took a step off the sidewalk and you didn't look left or right, you're going to be run over by bicycles. People ride bicycles there, that a whole bunch of people do. I think it's good for people. I think it's good exercise. And I also think it's good for the environment. It takes more cars out of the equation. And so those are 2 things. Rather than something esoteric, I'd rather propose just 2 practical things. More charging stations, and more bike lanes.
I've got a follow-up question of my own on this. When you mentioned electric charging stations, there are quite a few in this building and some of the county facilities, which is nice to see. I also own an electric vehicle, so I look for that. High-rise buildings, multifamily, are one of the biggest challenges. Existing or new multifamily buildings. What ideas do you have? What do we already do that would help an existing multifamily, again, condo or a rental building, to get electric vehicle charging stations? What are the options? Did you want to start on this one, James? You raised that initially.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I have an electric vehicle charging station in my office, but you can put them virtually anywhere where you have a parking garage. And if the apartment buildings have parking garages, there's no reason why they can't have electric vehicle charging stations. And I think that what we need to do is to go to the business owners, the people who own the apartment buildings, and say, look, you've got to put these in. People depend on this. They can't get to work without it. And I think that if we work with these people, I think that eventually we can expand the electric vehicle charging stations that we have. If it's an apartment building without an underground garage, I think that what we need to do is to set up electric vehicle charging stations in the parking lots. I want to see in America eventually where electric vehicle charging stations are as common as gas stations. And if they become that common, people will adapt. Things will change. People will start driving electric cars. We won't have the pollution that we have from automobiles. It's a practical solution to a practical problem.
Thank you.
Early on, they made a decision to rely on cars, and it kind of hurt the railroads. I think that what we need to do is expand that. I would expand Metro as far as we can possibly go. What I would really like to see ultimately is a Metro line under Columbia Pike. I live on the Pike. The Pike is in sorry shape. You can't even drive on Columbia Pike. Businesses are leaving left and right. And what really made the Boston corridor go was the fact that they had a subway system, they had subway stops. I think that we need to have the same sort of thing underneath Columbia Pike. I think it would spur development. I think that we need to look to the future and not just ask, how can we improve what's already here, but what can we do for the future of Arlington? What can we do to bring in business, to make the Pike a place where people can do business, make the Pike a place where people are seeing development, not just small businesses that keep fading away. And I think a Metro line would be a whole lot of incentive to make all that happen. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. There's a question. What do we do? What do we do well? And what could we be doing better? Where are the gaps in providing infrastructure for persons with disabilities in Arlington?
Well, once again, I am a civil rights lawyer. I do work with people who have disabilities. I think that what we simply have to do is just to make sure that every building that we have is accessible. I think we need to make sure that people can get where they need to go in the transportation systems, that the buses and the trains accommodate them. I can't imagine being in a wheelchair and not being able to get where that you wanted to go. Whatever needs to happen to make sure that anybody with a disability has access, I'm for. So again, what I really want people to understand is that I don't oppose affordable housing. I have two daughters myself, they're 20 and 22. I would like them to be able to live in Arlington too. And I think the problem I have, and once again, I just think it's a question of quality of life. I think that people who live in single-family neighborhoods don't want to have to search for parking. They don't want their basements to be flooded. They don't want sewage backing up in their homes. They don't want to lose the trees. They don't want their schools to be overcrowded. And my basic problem with the missing middle, first of all, I think it's a fantasy if people think it's actually going to create affordable housing. It's not. The prices are just too high. Then the question becomes, if it's not going to create affordable housing, who does it benefit except for real estate developers? And I do think there are better options. I believe in affordable housing, but I just think the missing middle, I don't think the single-family neighborhoods can take the density. I don't think the people want it. And I think that's really important, to listen to the people who actually live in the neighborhoods. And there are a number of other situations like that. There's the River House development in Crystal City, which will block the view of the people living on Arlington Ridge. There's the Melwood House development in Aurora Hills and the Clarendon Presbyterian Church development in Lyon Village. If you overdevelop there, it's going to make parking impossible. I've been there on a Saturday morning. There are just no places to park your cars. And the same thing with the Hotel Pentagon project, which is another situation where the county board could have done something that the residents there wanted. They wanted more affordable housing, and the county board actually voted against it. So my basic problem with the county board right now is I just don't think they're listening. They're not listening to the people who actually live in the neighborhoods. And it's important to listen to those people because it's their quality of life and all of your quality of life that's going to be affected.
James.
I'm a civil rights lawyer, so what I do with respect to gay and lesbian people is that I can bring lawsuits to go ahead and defend their rights. I think that the primary thing that we need all of us to do is to stand up and to say that what Donald Trump is doing is wrong. The long and the short of it is Trump is a bully. But I've got a little secret to tell you about bullies, and that is deep down inside, every bully is a coward. And if you stand up to them, they invariably back down. And what we need to do is we need to do that. We can't just simply stand by and watch the Republicans publicly pillory people who are simply being who they are. How can you possibly discriminate against somebody simply for being the people that they already are, being what they are? You just can't do that. It's un-American. Everything that Donald Trump is doing is deeply, deeply un-American. Mocking people with disabilities is un-American. Constantly lying to the American public is un-American. Calling soldiers who fought and died for this country losers is un-American. Refusing to say whether you will uphold the United States Constitution is un-American. Showing no respect for the rule of law is un-American. Threatening people with whom you disagree is un-American. Rounding up immigrants and deporting them without due process of law is un-American. Refusing to commit to helping Ukraine unless you can turn it into a business deal is un-American. You don't help Ukraine so you can extract minerals from them. You do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it because you want to make the world safe for democracy. The Republicans think we're licked. We are not licked. We are just begun to fight. And if you elect me, that's one of the things I want to do with my county board position, is use it as a soapbox to fight against Donald Trump.